Alright guys, so when you're going to set up a lathe tool, your most common tool that you're going to be using is a single point turning and facing tool. So we've talked a little bit about the different turning operations already. You know that turning is going to be taking off the diameter of the part and facing is going to be taking off the length of the part. When you go to put this in the machine, you have to think about a couple of different things for the tool. And those are square and centered. So when I say square, I'm mostly talking about the shank of this tool and the part being 90 degrees to each other. So as the tool's sitting in the tool holder, it's going to be 90 degrees to the actual part, and then also centered up and down. And you may think that it's going to be centered up and down no matter what, even if I just throw it in there, because the machine should be set up the way it should be. But I want to show you that that's not necessarily the case. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a tool in the tool post. I clean off the top, I clean off the bottom, anywhere where surfaces are going to be touching, just like on the mills. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the tool post, take out my T-handle for the tool post, and I'm going to make sure it's kind of up against the back wall of the tool post because that helps me to make sure it's squared, and I'm going to tighten it down. Make sure when you tighten these tools down, you have engagement from all three of these screws. Don't have it hanging out so that only two of the screws are grabbing, and then you want to go back and snug them all up, and I double check these a couple of times because one will loosen up the other as you tighten. Okay, so now that that's in there, you'd think I'm just ready to set it up, but I want to show you what a bad cut looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and take a facing cut. So I turn the machine on. For aluminum, I want to be going probably around 1700 RPM. So that's pretty good right there. And I'm going to bring it over and I touch it off just like on the mills. Okay, then I'll go in some and I'll just take a facing cut. Nice and consistent feed rate. The cut itself doesn't look bad. I have some chips building up. Don't try to grab them. Okay, and I get to the middle and I come back out. Don't just stop in the middle. And then I turn the machine off. And if you look very closely, right in the middle, I have a tiny little nub left over. And the reason for that is the tool is actually lower than the center line of the part, and it's not supposed to be. So what I'm going to do is grab some shims that you guys have already measured before. So I have my whole little bin of shims right here, different colors, and I'm going to put some shims under the tool because right now I have a nub. That means that the actual cutter is trying to cut below that center line. I need to raise it up so that it's cutting right through the center line. So I'm going to loosen up my cutter. I'm going to grab a shim and I'm going to try it out. As far as what color shim goes, you're going to have to play around a little bit. I've had good luck in the past using one orange shim for this, sometimes one black shim, and they're different thicknesses. That was the little tiny nub, so I'm going to go ahead and try the orange shim and see what that does for me. Now, as far as just guessing and checking, that's not really the way you want to go. You actually have a method of determining if that tool is pretty centered up and down. So I'm going to go ahead and put the tool back in, make sure it's back up against the back of the tool post, tighten it down. And now I have a special tool that I use for centering this up or for checking the center, and it's your regular 6-inch ruler that you guys find in your measurement kit. And the thing that I do with this is I pinch it right between the part on the side and the actual cutter. So I put it right here on the side. I bring in my x-axis and I pinch it right between the point of the cutter. And then what I want to do is I want to look from the side and I want to see if that ruler is straight up and down. If it's perfectly straight up and down, that means that the cutter is centered. If it's kicked to where the top of it goes towards the back of the machine, that means it's pushing on the top more than the bottom and the cutter is actually a little bit too high. And if it's kicked where the bottom is towards the back of the machine like this, that means the cutter's too low. So before you ever actually take a cut, I want you to check it with the ruler. And now when I'm looking at this, I feel like I compensated a little bit too much. I went a little bit too high with the shim because even though it's subtle, the ruler is kicked a little bit where the top is towards the back of the machine. So I'm actually going to take the shim out and replace it with a black shim. And this may take you a couple of tries, but once you got it down, you should be able to pretty much figure which shims you're going to use. I am going to show you real fast what it looks like without any shims in the ruler, just to give you an idea that I could have checked that before. So if I go ahead and squeeze it in there now, okay, now it's very subtle, but the bottom is kicked a little bit towards the back of the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a black shim in there. That's like my next step down from the orange. I'm just going to slide the black shim in there, tighten it down, and then double check it. And then if it looks good, I will take a test cut. I'm going to go ahead and pop the ruler right back in there. Okay, and that's looking a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and take a cut, and really the final test is, did I get rid of that little nub in the middle? So I'm going to go ahead and try it out. Go ahead and turn the machine on, bring it in, touch it back off. Okay, and that nub is pretty much gone. There's a little bit tiny left, so if you wanted to play around, maybe getting another real thin shim in there, you could put a blue one in there. That's the next step down. But play around until that nub disappears, and once you have that height figured out, you'll be good to go.